Hello, my fabulous book friends. Welcome back to another video. Oh my gosh, if you told me like a month ago, maybe in June, that I would read 16, no, 18 books in July, I would have laughed in your face. Like, I would have called you, I would have given you money because that was like a fantastic joke. But I guess things happen. Apparently I read a lot, so I'm here to wrap it all up for you. I know, you're probably thinking, Maria, how did you read so many books when you sometimes barely hit like 10? Well, I have been reading multiple books at once a lot more lately. I've switched between a physical book. I also read a lot on my Kobo now lately because I'm using Overdrive a lot more. So I'm just like getting library books as ebooks through there. So I always have like something on the go with me, which is awesome, I guess. Obviously, it kind of paid off. I know sometimes I'm still a little bit weirded out by it because some books were like very short. Like I read a couple poetry collections, things like that. So I still feel like I'm cheating, but I'm just trying to get past that headspace and think, you know what, reading is reading, no matter the length, no matter what genre it is, no matter how you read it. So I did also listen to one audiobook, which I never listened to audiobooks, but I mean, regardless, I read in a lot of different mediums this month. So maybe that's why, I don't know. I was also having a really great reading month. Like I genuinely really enjoyed most of the books that I picked up. So that really helped me, I think. For this video, I'm just gonna go by order of what I read and just give you my rating and a short description and a short review of them. Or else this video will be forever long and I wanna go make a mug cake, honestly, after this and have a coffee. The first book that I read was Our Little Secret. It's a graphic novel memoir, which I read for a readathon, a Canadian readathon that was happening during July. I actually don't know at this point if I like got a bingo in that Instagram template or not, but that's why I read it. So I mean, I should probably update that template at some point. Currently it's July 30th as I am filming this, so I've got a day to fill that up, hopefully. I don't even know, again, I don't know if I had a bingo, so good luck to me, I guess. But this was a graphic novel memoir, very dark. Definitely check the content warnings on the book because they're very, like, I mean, again, it just goes into her life, to Emily's life, I believe the author is called, Emily Carrington, if I remember correctly. Basically about her life and how she was abused and how that affected her entire life and what she was trying to do to combat that. So it's very dark. I think it's an important read. I really liked it. I gave it 5 stars. The drawings were really nice. I did read it on Kobo though, so like I feel like I didn't get the full experience of the book, but like as a Kobo like it was a really great experience. Like that's the first graphic novel I read on Kobo, so I thought like the wording, it wasn't too small, at least in this one. So yeah, highly recommend if you can handle this subject matter because it gets really deep into her life, and even though it's an important read, it's definitely not for everyone if you're triggered by any of the topics that she discusses. The second book I read this month was Manhunt. I gotta say this was probably a disappointment for me. I still gave it 3.5 stars, but I think that I was expecting to like love it a lot more, especially how it was hyped. Well, how I hyped it in my mind, at least. Basically, this book is about, it takes place in a dystopian, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, it's probably more dystopian setting. There's a disease that's only affecting men. So it's like, I don't even know what they call it. I think they called it like T-Day in this book or something. But basically, you have 2 trans main characters who are hunting men who have gone feral. Like they're eating everybody up and things like that. So it's all right that they're hunting men, but they basically need to harvest their organs so they can extract, I don't know if it's like estrogen or testosterone, but like so they can basically take that, eat that for themselves, and like so they don't turn feral themselves because obviously they're transgender women, so they need something special so they need something extra special to, like, you know, keep themselves in check, I guess. When I bought this book, the bookseller said, oh, this reads exactly like a movie, and I 1000% agree. It kind of reads like one big long horror novel, very gory, like for the basically all of it. So if you can handle gore, go for it. Really the only reason why I picked this up was because the TERFs in like London, UK or whatever, they were all pissed off because this book fantasizes the author who must not be named death. So I thought that was hilarious that they were all upset. So like, you know what, let's just read it. So definitely delivered on how how this author fantasized that death. Loved it. It was all the way at the end though, so I had to wait a long time to find out what happened. I think it was good. I think this also warrants a reread because there was just so much that I missed during the novel, I think. So that's why I'm kind of like a bit disappointed in it, because not that I didn't get it, I couldn't get past the gore the first time around. I'm sure if I read it a second time around, I'll probably like it a lot more, but who's got time for that? The next book was this anthology called Cold Canadian Crime, which was put together by the Crime Writers of Canada. So basically it is all Canadian authors, so many short reads, some longer, and like stories, things like that. I thought it was really fun. I gave this 4 stars. Again, so many great stories. You got mystery, a little bit of thriller, it was just really well done. I liked it. So if you want to support Canadian crime writers, that's the book to read, basically. You can get it, I believe you can get it free on Kobo Plus if you have that subscription, or you can try like a 30-day free trial or something. So I got it for free, or you can just buy it because I think they have paperbacks available, but I can't remember. Go look at it on Amazon or Chapters or your local independent bookstore, of course, obviously. The next book that I read was Fight Night by Miriam Toes, however you want to say it, I don't know. Loved this book, 5 stars. This book, I think this book will be one of my favorites of the year. I don't want to say too much about this book because I have a July book haul coming up. Yeah, so you'll know more of my thoughts on this one. Yeah, I definitely really want to read this author's backlist now. 5 stars, easily. The one audiobook that I listened to this month was through the Libro FM influencer program, and that was Night of the Living Rez, which is a short story collection. I gave it 4.5. I really need to practice listening to audiobooks though, because for the first, I think like quarter of this book, I had no idea what was going on. I've learned not to listen to audiobooks while I'm working because it just doesn't work. But as I was like, you know, playing like some random color by numbers game on my iPad or cleaning or stuff like that, like that's when I would really listen to it. So that's also when I really got into it. It was hard to track the characters sometimes, but they're all like connected, interconnected stories. So I think as a reading experience, it would be really beneficial if you read the physical book, but if you're used to audiobooks, then you probably won't have any problem listening to it like I did. Oh my god, this is embarrassing. I can't even begin to tell you what the book is about because I kind of forgot. I would still keep that rating even though I obviously can't tell you what the book is about because I remember some of the stories, but I don't want to talk about them because I don't want to like give away too much of the book, so I apologize. I should be better than this, but I'm not. The thriller or mystery book that I read for this month was The Lover. I thought this was a good domestic thriller, slow burn novel. If that is definitely what you like to read, I do recommend this book. For me, it was just a bit too slow. I did give it 3 stars. There were some parts that like really could have been edited down. Like this is one thick book, and I don't read too many chunky books. I did get through it pretty quickly because the font is somewhat big, short-ish chapters, so it was easy to get through, despite how heavy and big it is. I don't think it was my, like, if I would compare it to other domestic slow burn thrillers that I've read, this definitely does not compare to them in the same way that I felt like when I read those other books. This is about a woman who has an affair with a man upstairs, or her neighbor upstairs, I guess, and he is found dead one day, and she basically, I guess she kind of goes into the apartment beforehand, and I don't know if she discovered him dead or if she realized something was wrong and she just like left, but she also doesn't want to, when the police come and like talk to people and try to figure out what happened, she doesn't like tell them about her affair. She doesn't tell them that, you know, she did go upstairs at the time. So I don't know, it was just like very weird motives to me, and I just did not care, again, like for the choices that the characters made, things like that. So whatever. I'm sure it's perfect for somebody else out there, but just not for me. The next book that I read is a YA fiction novel called Wrong Side of the Court. It takes place in Toronto. It's also longlisted for the Toronto Book Awards, which I want to do a shortlist prediction video, which is why I'm making my way slowly through the long list. But I loved this book so much. Definitely a new favorite. Totally an easy 5 stars. Did not even also hesitate to give that book 5 stars. I think it was great for the target YA audience. Sometimes YA reads really young. This book also deals with male characters, which I think is really important. There are not enough male characters in YA books, I think, as main characters, I mean. So that's why I think I really enjoyed it. I like that different perspective. It is about a young boy, or I guess a growing boy. He's 15 years old or something. He just wants to play basketball, and he's in a rough part of Toronto. So there's, a lot of violence in the community, and kind of how he works through that and tries to stay on the right path and to fulfill his dreams, even though others around him are kind of trying to not run his life, but tell him that, you have to be this way, or this isn't, you're not going to make it, things like that. So I thought it was really touching. It has a lot of really great characters in it. I love the cast of characters. I really hope this book reaches a wide audience because I think it's very important and it's very cool. Kind of Angie Thomas-esque, but make it Canadian. Yeah. And the second graphic novel that I read this month, it's also longlisted for the Toronto Book Awards. That is Work for a Million. I gave this book 4 stars. I do recommend reading it, not on a device. Definitely read the paperback or something like that, some kind of physical format, because it was just, the print was so small on my Kobo, and I had a rough time enlarging it, so you can't really do that on those kinds of files sometimes. So yeah, I was a sight at night reading this book with the right in front of my eyes, just I can read it properly, because it's dark. And anyways, it was an experience, but it was a good experience. It is, I'm pretty sure it's a retelling or a reimagining, redoing or rewriting of this series back in I don't know, the 1900s sometime. Not that old, obviously, but it was definitely, I don't know, 1970s. I'm just coming up with numbers off the top of my head. I don't know what I'm talking about. But basically, this illustrator and this writer took a book that was already existing and they kind of reworked it and made it not their own, but they made it into a graphic novel, is what I'm trying to say. So what was great about this book when it was first published is that it featured a lesbian main character who also worked in the private investigator world. That was kind of not off the cuff, that sounds so old, but probably what these characters would say. So it was very obviously not traditional back whenever this was published. That's why it stood out from the rest of the crowd, and that's why these two creatives decided to, I guess, write it as a graphic novel, which I think was really successful. As someone who has never read the book that this was rewritten from or based on, I really enjoyed it. It was very not police procedural, but it was very much that procedure, a lot of action, a lot of kick-ass fighting, things like that. So it was very entertaining. I really liked it, and I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read is a book, again, also on the long list for the Toronto Book Awards, but it's a workbook, which is why I have the physical copy. That is The Underground Railroad by Adrian Shad, Afua Cooper, and Carolyn Smarts Frost. Yeah, I did read this physical book because it was just an adventure. I really like it. It's for YA nonfiction, and it's basically, this is the 4th edition though, but this edition has new information based on a 2015 archaeological dig in Toronto at some point. It's basically details Toronto's involvement in the Underground Railroad and the people who used it to get here and how they built a life and all that stuff. So I really liked it. I liked the illustrations. It is definitely a really great resource to have for any teen, a high school or maybe a grade 8 school library, or just in a classroom in general. One thing to know though, on Goodreads, if you do we're friends on there, if you want to be friends on there, it's down below. But any book that I read for work, I will always rate 5 stars on Goodreads no matter what, just because it's the industry standard thing to do. But this book, even though it's rated 5 stars on Goodreads over there, I do give it 4 stars in real life. But yeah, I think it was really well written. If you ever get the chance to see even just two or all of these authors together, Adrian, Afua, and Carolyn, they are amazing together. I love watching them speak. They're so funny. They're clearly friends. They're adorable. If someone interrupts someone, they'll say, oh, no, 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 you go ahead. Like, they're just really cute. I love their energy and their friendship. So if you do get a chance to see all three of them together, I highly recommend going out because they're very sweet people and they're really nice to talk to. The next book that I read was for the very first Reading with Maria book club pick. That is Girl in Ice. I did already post my review video on this, which also includes the August announcement. So go watch that right now and let me know if you'd like to join. I'll leave it in a card somewhere or just in the description box below because knowing me, I will not figure out how to put a card in this video. Basically, this book is about Val, who is traveling to the Arctic or Antarctica. I believe it's the Arctic. And she is given the task to figure out this girl who was literally frozen and then she was unfrozen and she doesn't speak the language. So she has to kind of figure out like what her, like, you know, what she's talking, like what she's saying, things like that. I gave this book 3.5. I really liked the writing, but the story was a little disjointed at times, but it was a good start to the Reading with Maria book club picks. Next up, I read 2 poetry collections by the same author, Mythical Man, which is right here by David Lee, and then his follow-up, which is Dream of Me as Water. Really great collections. The craziest story, I have to tell you. So David had followed me on Twitter. I think he had followed me on Instagram at some point, but I never noticed. But anyways, I knew him from Twitter. So, you know, just seeing him tweet a lot, I'm like, okay, I'm finally going to put his first book, Mythical Man, on hold because it's a great cover. I really like it. Let me put it on hold first, figure out like, you know, if I like it. Obviously, at least if I love it, then he'll get the PLR money from it because whenever you borrow a book here in Canada, like authors, if they're signed up for a program, they'll get royalties on it up to a certain amount. Anyways, so I finally put the book on hold and then he randomly emailed me that same day, like a few hours later, asking if I wanted to review his upcoming collection, Dream of Me as Water. And I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. Like I just put Mythical Man on hold. He was offering to send me his upcoming one. I'm like, no, 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 please don't send it. I will buy it. I'm just waiting for like my library hold to come in because I know like I already knew I would kind of buy it just because I really liked David as a person on Twitter. So I'm like, you know, just let's support more CanLit. And yeah, that's just such a fun story. And to make it even more wild, I have applied for a mentorship thing through the LPG Literary Press Group. And, you know, I applied to be a mentor in digital marketing specifically. So a little bit ago, I got an email like someone was interested in digital marketing. They matched me up with them. And believe it or not, the person that I am mentoring in digital marketing is the publisher of David's books, of his poetry collections, which makes it even more wild. So anyways, I feel like it was meant to be. The stars really aligned for us 3 Canadians somehow. I don't know. I just find it so hilarious. Yes. All right, so back to his books, Mythical Man and Dream of Me as Water. Really liked them. I loved Mythical Man for the fluidity of it. Like it was very accessible, easy to read. I can't wait to have a copy in my hand. I did tell David I've ordered it, but I think I have it in my shopping cart still. Stupidly, I still have not actually bought it, but when I do buy it and obviously pre-order the other book, I'm going to post my reviews on Instagram. But just know that I really loved Mythical Man because it was accessible. It was easy to read, really nice. I liked the form of it and everything. For his upcoming one, Dream of Me as Water, that is more poetic. That's more poetry, probably. I hope you know what I mean, but like it's definitely more intentional of like, you know, word usage, things like that. So it's definitely read as a different book, but some of the poems in Dream of Me as Water are like continuations of Mythical Man. So I really do like that there's that connection between them. I do also recommend now, because I've read both of them back to back, to read both of them back to back so you remember the poems that are being referenced from the second book. But yeah, both of them were really great. I gave them 5 stars. I mean, I'm not a poetry expert, but I know what I like, or I know when I read something I like it, so I really loved them, and yeah, 5 stars. The next book, which I gave 4 stars, was Baby It's Cold Outside. It's an indie romance author novella. I read it because there was a buddy read happening with my very close friend Reading for the Weekend on Instagram. So I'm like, let's just join her buddy read. She inspires me to read more indie romance. So whenever I can join those, I do join the group. I really loved the like the book element, like books about books kind of thing. I liked the writer's aspect to it. It's about a woman who is trying to like get her next book out, and she's told her agent and editor, of course, that she's done the book, but it's like weeks overdue. So she goes on a not winter, I think she's in Tennessee still, but like it randomly snows or something, and like obviously she's stuck, and she meets this really hot guy, and you can imagine what happens. I think it was really well written. I really liked this story, and it flowed really nicely for a novella. It wasn't too short, wasn't too long, it was just the right amount of words, basically. It's kind of funny because for this book, so we were all chatting about it, and I said, how does everybody feel about the time difference between like when they didn't talk, when they stopped talking, and then when they met up, which is like months later? And people were like, what are you talking about? It was like only a couple weeks. And I turned on my Kobo specifically, and I screenshot for them like the passages that I was referencing, and everyone agreed with me after. It's like, oh yeah, so maybe I misread that. And then Erica, who also co-hosts with Anne Reading for the Weekend, Erica's she's either like speed reader or speed reader. Anyways, I'll leave both of their Instagrams down below. But then Erica messaged me separately, and she's like, I think you have a different version, because I just checked my version, which she read it on Kindle, and it was like a 2-week time difference. So I don't know what happened there, but I just find that so hilarious. So I don't know if maybe the author changed something and she updated the file on Kindle, but the Kobo file wasn't updated or whatever. But anyways, I don't think I would have liked the book with that 2-week difference of not talking. I loved the dramatics of these two people just not talking for like months on end until the main character's like new book came out that she had finished on that trip. So anyways, I thought that was hilarious. Speaking of Anne and Reading for the Weekend, we also co-host a buddy read called the Reading Addicts Buddy Read on Instagram. You can also join us monthly for that. And our July pick was Just Like Mother. Creepy cover. It was a horror cult thriller novel. I hated the book up until the last like 100 pages. So basically those last pages gave this book, or upgraded this book from a 2-star rating to a 4 stars. It was so wild. I can't even believe that this is something that the author would think of. I loved the twist. I didn't see it coming. I know some people in the group chat did, but it had me by surprise. Basically, it's about 2 cousins who grew up in a cult together when they were younger, and they were separated by the system. So now it's like many, many years later. They're both adults, and they find each other again after all these years. And one of them is very successful. The other one is kind of not down in the dumps, but you know, she's had a rough life basically. And so, you know, they meet together as one of them is going to the other one's successful home. Like she's starting, you know, her friends aren't really very weird. Like they're very much focused on motherhood, even though the character is not. And it was just, I don't know. The ending was a mix of like Margaret Atwood meets, just insert any popular horror novelist, and you will probably get this book. I thought it was really great. I don't want to spoil too much. I do think it's a book that slips under the radar a lot, but at the same time, I do think that the writing, like for the most of the book, could have been better. It was such a wild ride at the end that I personally could look past the annoyance of the rest of the book, but I know a lot of other people probably won't be able to, so that's totally okay. But maybe just borrow this if you're curious. Oh my goodness, the worst book, not of the year maybe. I've read some pretty bad books this year, but this one is definitely there. Run Towards the Danger. Again, longlisted for the Toronto Book Awards, which is why I read it. I regret buying the ebook. I wish I could return it because that was just the worst experience of my life. If I could call this a vanity memoir, and in essays I could, but it really wasn't vanity. I feel like it does nothing for mental health culture, for motherhood culture. Like, she's just writing about her experience and her life versus being you know, writing her memoir to be an inspiration to others. You know what I mean? Like, there's a huge difference, and I think that's why I think like it's kind of a vanity memoir, kind of not. I do not care who Sarah Pulley is. I never knew her before this book. I don't give a crap. I don't care. Yeah, so 1 star. I will leave my Goodreads review down below if you want to read it, because I did not hold back on that review. So yeah, I don't want to talk about this book, so gone. The second last book that I've read this month is also for the long list of the Toronto Book Awards, Massey Hall by David McPherson, with a foreword by Jan Arden. I borrowed this from my library. This is also a Dundurn Press novel, or not novel, book. I do regret reading it as an ebook, because like I feel like I missed out on so much of like the beautiful illustrations, and like, you know, ebooks are only set a certain way, so it was kind of a bit jarring because like everything is obviously one color. So I don't know, I just think that I could have had a better reading experience had I just literally walked downstairs into my basement and just picked this book up for my work area, but it's fine. I really loved the history of Massey Hall. Like, it's very well researched, very well written. As I was telling one of my coworkers, it reads as like one giant listicle, basically. I rate books that I work on Goodreads for 5 stars. If I'm gonna be honest with you here, this would probably be 3.5, 4 stars, depends on the day that you get me on when you ask me about this book. But yeah, lots of information, lots of really cool background stories of Massey Hall and like the entire history from basically right to when they were doing like the massive overhaul of all the renovations. So very cool. Yeah, definitely recommend. It's a good coffee table book, even though it's paperback. I think like for any concert history lover who also has a really great connection with Toronto, very niche, so definitely makes for a good book for them. And the last book that I've read, although I have not finished it yet, but I will definitely finish it by the end of tomorrow, basically, because it's July 30th, is The Relatives by Camila Gibb, also on the long list of the Toronto Book Awards. I'm really trying to get that video out about my shortlist predictions. But basically, yeah, like I said, I'm only 20 pages in, so I don't have too much to judge it on. But I think the writing is great. I don't know about the story yet, so TBD, but I don't know. Right now I'm thinking about 3.5, 4 stars also. Whoa, that was a lot of books. I'm sure I talked way too fast during most of that video, but I was trying to like just get it out of my system so I can go make that mug cake and have a coffee because I'm burnt out. If you have read any of these books, definitely let me know. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe. For the month of August, I am definitely going to read a lot of CanLit or Canadian literature or Canadian authors, whatever you want to call it, because I'm trying to read as many books as I can that I think would make the long list of the Giller Prize, because that's being announced September 6th maybe, or something like that. So I'm trying to read as many books as I think will make it, because I want to read the entire long list and then go live on Instagram with a really close friend to you know, like, we'll both read the long list and then we're gonna predict the short list like the night before the short list comes out. And I think the short list is like September 28th or something, which is very, very soon after the long list is announced. So good luck to the both of us, but that will be most of my August. Yeah, wish me luck. I hope next month I'll have a lot of CanLit to recommend to you guys. Anyways, I'll see you for my next video. Enough talking. I'm gonna go make that coffee and mug cake because I'm dying over here for it.